Hello, today we will see continuation of module 5, that is the microcontroller and embedded system subject, module 5. Here these are the topics present in your module 5. So textbook we have to refer, that is introduction to embedded system textbook. Author is Shibu Kiwi. Now in the previous video lecture we completed till how to choose an RTOS. In this video lecture we will see continuation of that, that is integration of embedded system, testing of embedded system, like that. So in the previous we mainly concentrated on this RTOS concept, that is a basics of operating system, and about multitasking, multiprocessing, thread preemption, then communication, synchronization issues, racing, deadlock, also some of the methods of semaphores, and finally how to choose an RTOS. In that we see in two types, that is a functional and a non-functional requirements, like cost, time, everything. So now in this video lecture we are going to see integration and testing of embedded hardware and firmware and remaining things. Let us start with the concept integration of hardware and firmware. So integrating software into hardware, so that is the concept here. Integration of hardware and firmware deals with the embedding of firmware into the target hardware board. So anyway we have hardware board is there, so but software is not there. So anyway combination of hardware and software is called embedded device. So any hardware is there, you have to put software in that hardware. So for that process, embedding of firmware means in the case of embedded system we are calling software as firmware. So embedding firmware inside your hardware, so that is a concept here. We have four types of methods in order to add your software inside hardware. We have four types here. One is out of circuit programming. Second one is in system programming, short form is ISP. Third one is in application programming, IAP. Fourth one is use of factory programmed chip. So we will see that one by one. First one is out of circuit programming. So what do you mean by out of circuit programming? Here out of circuit programming is performed outside the target board. Outside the target board. We have consider one embedded device. That device contains many hardwares, and we have one small module to install software also. So we have to remove that module from your hardware, and we are going to connect it to another hardware, that is outside your embedded device. We are going to connect here. Now just we will see that, we will read that, and at that same time I will explain. Out of circuit programming is performed outside the target board. So here your computer is there, your code is ready, you want to dump that code inside embedded device. So directly we can't go for embedded device with the use of computer. So for that purpose, the processor or memory chip into which the firmware need to be embedded is taken out of the target board, and it is programmed with the help of programming device. We are taking which part of the embedded device need to program. or which part of the embedded device we have main software part that is removed from the embedded device, and we are going to take help of one programming device to load your program stored in your computer to that module, that processor or memory chip. Okay, so here we have embedded device. From that we are taking only that software module outside, and we are going to connect it to another hardware. That hardware is called programming device. So this is not in embedded device, that is out of the embedded device. So embedded device is here, we are taking that only where we want to load software, right? That part we are taking outside, that is a core. Then we are putting that core here, or we are putting that module here. We are connecting that module to programming device. This is your programming device, or this is programmer. Programmer will load. So user he will already written code in the PC. He will dump that code to programming device, this one. So that programming device, we already connected software module, right? So that code is dumped to that software module through this programming device. So in programming device, a lot of pin is there, pin counts. Like that in the software module, that kit also we have some pin counts. We are going to put that here. We are going to connect this one with software module, and we are going to dump that program to here, okay, through wired connection or wireless connection. Then that is loaded to software module. Once that program is loaded in software module, then we can take that back to embedded system. Just taking from the device, adding your program, keep that back in that device. That is the method here. The programming device is a dedicated unit which contains the necessary hardware circuit to generate the programming signals. So it is a one dedicated device, dedicated unit. So this is your programming device. Here that is only used for programming purpose. Okay, which contain necessary hardware circuit to generate a programming signals. So this is the programming device. The programmer device, that is a programmer device, this one contains a zip socket with locking pin to hold the device to be programmed. To be programmed, that device, where is that program hold the device to be programmed? Device to be programmed is there in embedded device, right? We are going to take that from embedded device and we are going to connect it to your programming device. So that is the device to be programmed. So that we are going to connect to here. So we have some sockets, zip socket and necessary pin numbers, pin counts, locking pins, everything is there in your programming device. So we are going to connect your device to be programmed to this programming device. So by that we can dump your code to that device to be programmed, then through this programming device. So this is a very simple method out of circuit programming. Then we will go for second one, in-system programming. With in-system programming, programming is done within the system, meaning the firmware is embedded into the target device without removing it from the target board. In the previous case we removed from the target board, but here whichever device need to be programmed, right, we no need to remove from the target board. Here within the system we are coding, that means your computer is connected to the directly embedded device. So there itself we are going to code, we are going to dump the code, no need to take from the target device. Directly we can connect your computer to target device itself, no need to remove from target device. So but some of the conditions are there. The only prerequisite is that the target device must have an ISP support. Yeah, ISP, that is a in-system programming support should be there. target device, then you can connect your target device directly to the computer to load the code. Apart from the target board, PC, ISP cable, ISP utility, no other additional hardware is required for the ISP. Mainly ISP support is required. Once ISP support is there, other thing we can see, but if the ISP support is not there, then no use. We can't go for in-system programming method. In order to perform ISP operation, the target device should power up in a special ISP mode. One is, there should be in target device, there should be ISP support. Second thing is, when you are doing your ISP operation, your device, target device should power on in ISP mode. That is a two condition for in-system programming. So if that two things are successfully completed or successful, then we can load our program from your computer to directly target device without any problem. So that is why here given ISP programming is means within the system. Within the system means no need to remove any component from the system for loading or uploading or code installation, anything. Directly we can connect it to device itself. Third one is in application programming, IAP. Previous one is ISP, here IAP. Here simply we can tell, we can actually this is used for updating purpose only. We can't load initial software there. We can use one for updating purpose. Let us see that. In application programming is a technique used by the firmware running on the target device for modifying a selected portion of the code memory. Okay, it is a technique used by the firmware running on the target device for modifying a selected portion of the code memory. So this one is another method here, only this one used for modifying purpose. Okay, we can't initially load any code, so just modifying purpose. So here that's why they given firmware running on the target device for modifying a selected portion of the code memory. In the code memory we need to install code initially, okay, in any other manner, but in application programming we can modify that code. It is not a technique for first time embedding of user written firmware. Yes, it is not technique for initial installation. Initial installation, we can go for that previous two cases we see in the previous slides, that we can use, but this one for only modifying purpose, or you can general word is updating purpose. If there is any code, we are using some application programming to update that code. That's it. Update calibration data, lookup tables, etc., which are stored in code memory, are typical example of IAP. That means updating some tables, updating some data, or updating some part of the code variable, like that thing we can do, but we can't install initial software by using in application programming. Last method is use of factory programmed chip. The name itself tells that we are loading your program when your manufacturer creates that device in factory. Okay, in the factory itself we are loading our program. After that we can't change. That is also one of the disadvantage. Okay, so here fourth method is we are loading our program in the manufacturer time itself. So factory programmed chip means embed the firmware, means software, into the target processor, controller, memory at the time of chip fabrication itself. When you are creating your chip, that is the chip fabrication time, then only we are loading our software. Once the firmware design is over and the firmware achieved operational stability, the firmware files can be sent to the chip fabricator to embed it into the code memory. So once that is over, then directly you can, once the design is finalized, then you can load that code into that chip in the factory itself. Factory programmed chip are convenient for mass production application, and it is generally reduces the product development time. It is reduces the product development time, and also it is a mass means your hundred of thousand of quantity you are creating, means then only that is useful. If you are just producing 2 or 3 kits, this factory programmed chip is not much applicable. It is not recommended to use factory programmed chip for development purpose where the firmware undergoes frequent changes. Anyway, development purpose embedded devices, so or we can call it as whichever devices, embedded devices related to development purpose, there we can't use this factory programmed chip, because development means there is always changes will happen. If that changes will happen, that device should adjust for that change. That means the device should update software every time. But in this case, if that there is any change every time there is a change, means this thing will not helpful, because where firmware undergoes frequent changes, there we can't apply this one. Factory programmed IC are bit expensive. So one is expensive, one is your if there is any frequent update is required, we can't do this, we can't go for factory programmed chip. And another one is here this for mass production concept or mass production application, we are using this. That means not in 1 or 2 numbers, we have to produce 1000, 10,000, lakh numbers we are producing, means then only this factory programmed chip is applicable. And also advantage is reduce the development time. The integrated development environment, IDE, remember, short form of integrated development environment. So this is you have to know this IDE full form. Okay, so IDEs can be either command line, that means command line based, or GUI based, graphical user interface. So either command line or GUI based. Command line based means I think you know about that. Just for anything you want to have work in that particular device, means you have to give commands. In your laptop itself, some of the softwares are command line based. How? So that software will work, whatever you want to work in that software, you have to give commands. A lot of commands you have to know. But in the GUI concept, GUI means graphical user interface concept, no need to know any commands. So just there is a visual things, just now currently Windows, you are using Windows operating system, that is completely GUI. So there everything is there, just you have to double click that to open that, and directly you can press delete button to delete that, and you can go back and you can go into the file, everything will, that is a GUI, that is a visual indications. But in the command line there is no visual indication, only you are getting command window, there you have to type everything in terms of commands, then only that process will happen. In order to open file also you have to give command, but in this GUI just you can double click. So that is the difference between command line and GUI. So both methods is there in the integration development environment. GUI based IDEs, IDE again, IDEs means IDE means integration development environments, provide a visual development environment, visual development with the mouse click support for each action. So that is called GUI. Such IDEs are generally known as visual IDEs. Visual IDEs are very helpful for firmware development. So command line is somewhat complicated. So if you want to work in command line based method, so you have to be properly, you have to know about all commands and for what is the operation of command, everything you have to know. But here GUI is somewhat easy compared to command line. A typical example for Visual IDE is Microsoft at Visual Studio for developing visual and visual basic programs. Other examples are NetBeans and Eclipse, like this softwares. All the softwares are working in your IDE, this GUI based itself. Okay. Now here some of the software they given, which one are freely available, which one we have to pay, everything. So MPLab is a IDE tool supplied by the Microchip for developing embedded firmware using their PIC family of microcontroller. It is a one of the microcontroller PIC. So next, Keel Microvision. You know about this. Keel Microvision from Keel Software is an example for third-party IDE, which is used for developing embedded firmware for 8051 family microcontroller. Code Warrior by Metroworks is an example of IDE for ARM family of processor. Like this, there are different softwares. We are using GUI based softwares in some of the applications. Now here one diagram, you can consider this diagram is important. So here mainly this coming under your IDEs. Okay, so what are the different things they given? We have here computer, and we are going to connect integrated development environment tool for that computer, and EDE tool we can connect. PCB fabrication files we have here, and if you want to connect anything to hardware, so that means simulation, hardware based simulation is emulator, that we are using here emulator. Then we have development PC here, that is a host, and if there is any function generator required, means there is a hardware we are using here. And you can see this in system programming that we seen in the previous slides. In system programming, we are connecting your PC directly to your computer, your embedded device, that is called in system programming. So by using some communication method, we are going to connect your computer directly to the embedded device, and we can dump your code here directly. So that is the in system programming. So here if there is any hardware debugging interface, multimeter and logic analyzer, all are hardware debugging interfaces. Next coming slides we are going to study about these all devices. First one, disassembler bar decompiler. Disassembler means what? Decompiler means what? Here assembler means it is a tool to convert your low level language to machine level language or binary language. That is called assembler. Low level means assembly level language to machine level is called assembler. What do you mean by compiler? Compiler is a tool which converts your high level language programs to machine level programs. So your disassembly means decompiler. That is just reverse procedure. Disassembler is a utility program which converts machine into target processor specific assembly code. So assembler is used to convert assembly to machine, but disassembly means machine to assembly, reverse process. Decompiler is a utility program to translate machine code into corresponding high level language instructions. Compiler means high level to machine level. Decompiler means again machine level to high level, reverse procedure. Why we are going for reverse engineering or reverse procedure? Reverse engineering in embedded product development is employed to find out a secret behind the working of popular proprietary products. That means some of the major important and very popular embedded devices are there. So anyone want to find out the working method of that device, then easily anyone can't find out that, because in you can see working outside from outside you can see working method, but inside what is the code, what is the assembly code, or what is the high level code present in your device, that is easily user can't identify that. So if anyone got that idea about the coding of that popular devices, then it is very easy to create another device which is in the same type device. We can copy, we can create another device like that. So in order to go for that, some of the engineers, they are doing reverse engineering. Reverse engineering means they have output, from output they are going to find out input. Normally input or output procedure is a, but they have output now, they know output, so they will take input from that output. That is called reverse engineering procedure. So they going to find out what is the working procedure, what is the main code, everything they will find out by using reverse engineering. However, disassembler, decompiler generates a source code which is somewhat matching to the original source code from which the binary code is generated. Anyway, binary code means that is output code, machine code. So machine code we got that by using compiler. Decompiler means from machine code we are going to get original code, that is a reverse engineering. So why we are getting that? Because if you know that proper code of that main code of that embedded device, then easily you can create another device, same type of device, right? So in order to get that working idea, so you can copy that code by using this method, that is a reverse engineering method. They will get that code, they will create that code, but whatever code they will get after reverse engineering, that is not proper, means not exact code, somewhat matching code, but not exactly same code. Another concept is called simulator and emulator. The name itself you can see, simulator and emulator. Simulator is used for software, emulator is used for hardware. Simulator means you know about simulation procedure. In order to simulate, in order to use in order to go for some of the simulation procedure, we are using simulator, okay, in the software part mainly. Simulator is a software tool used for simulating the various conditions for checking the functionality of the application software. Some of the application software are, you want to find out the check, that is a various condition for checking the functionalities. So at that time you are going for simulation. So simulator we are using, that is a tool, software tool. Okay, method is simulation method, but tool we are using is simulator. Simulator refers to soft model. That means normally all of the simulator software or tools we are using in GUI model. Okay, graphical user interface model itself we are using. Example, you can take a Kill software also. There also we are using GUI concept. That means just click on that file, click on that folder, like that. So that is a GUI method. So what do you mean by emulator? Simulator means it is a software tool for simulating purpose. But what is emulator? Emulator means hardware tool for simulating purpose. So see, hardware device which emulate the functionalities of the target device and allow real-time debugging of the embedded firmware in a hardware environment. So we are going to check your hardware by using emulator. We are going to check your software by using simulator, checking your functionalities. Okay. So software tool is simulator, hardware tool is emulator. Emulator which checks functionalities of the hardware, simulator which checks functionalities of software. Target hardware debugging. So target device is there, that is embedded device. There we have hardwares. How to debug that hardware? What are the methods? What are the devices we are using for debugging the target hardware? So that is the concept here. Hardware debugging is not similar to software debugging. So what difference is there? Hardware debugging involves the monitoring of various signal of the target board, checking the interconnection among various components, circuit continuity checking. Like that we have many things inside hardware debugging. That means circuit continuity means everything is connected properly or not, if that connection continuity is there or not, checking the interconnection among various components, everything we have to check, right? So that is hardware debugging, but software debugging is somewhat different. Okay. The various hardware debugging tools used in embedded product development are some of the main hardware tool we are using here. They given some of the hardware, we will see that. First one is magnifying glass, that is also called lens. Magnifying glass. So this is one of the hardware debugging tool. How? A magnifying glass is a powerful visual inspection tool with a magnifying glass, that means lens. The surface of the target board can be examined thoroughly for dry soldering of component, missing component, improper placement of the component, improper soldering, track damage, short of tracks, etc. Here it is, your lens. So why we are using magnifier? Magnifier we are using in many of the editing software, just magnifier in order to zoom that. Okay. Magnifier glass or lens is a powerful visual inspection tool in order to inspect your circuit component things. With a magnifying glass, what are the things we can do? We can examine thoroughly. What are the things? One is dry soldering of the component, or is there any component is missing, or if there is any improper placement of the component, or there is a miss soldering or improper soldering, or track if any damage is there in your device. Everything we can check by using that magnifying glass or lens. So very powerful lens we are using to check that, because our device is very small, so we are using very powerful lens. Then while coming to multimeter, that is another debugging hardware debugging tool. So multimeter is used for measuring various electrical quantities like voltage, current, resistance, capacitance, continuity checking, transistor checking, cathode, anode identification of the diode, etc. These are the things we can use multimeter. Multimeter is a measuring various electrical quantities. You know multimeter, and while rotating multimeter, so if you're keeping your multimeter in voltage, then you can calculate voltage. If you are keeping your multimeter in current, we can calculate current in amperes. If you are keeping your multimeter in resistance symbol, there we have resistance ohm symbol, you keep that multimeter in ohm symbol, then you can calculate all the resistor values. So capacitor values, after there we have everything units in the multimeter, just you rotate and set there, then you can calculate all values. And continuity checking also you can do that. Okay. So the cathode and anode identification, if anyone initially any person don't know about cathode and anode side of the diode means he can check that by using multimeter. So multimeter we need, that is also debugging debugging one of the hardware. Okay, then we have digital CRO. Anyway, this CRO we used in the previous semester, that is a cathode ray oscilloscope. Here cathode ray oscilloscope is used for waveform capturing, to capture the waveform, and analysis measurement of signal strength, etc. CRO are available in both analog and digital versions. Analog versions we seen in that previous semester, but digital version we are going to see in this semester. So there we can save the waveforms and we are getting proper waveform in the case of digital. So there we can put pen drive and we can save. Many options are there in the digital CRO rather than analog CRO. So analog CRO, we will get perfect output here also, but in order to save, in order to do some calculations, this is somewhat better. See, that is a digital CRO. That full form of digital, that we are using DSO, digital signal oscilloscope. Here cathode ray oscilloscope. Then we have another debugging tool, that is hardware tool, logic analyzer. Logic analyzer is used for capturing the digital data. Digital data means, that is in binary data 0 and 1 from a digital circuitry, whereas CRO is employed in capturing all kinds of waves including logic signals. So that is the difference between CRO and logic. Logic analyzer is used to capture the digital data from the digital circuitry, right? Whereas CRO is employed capturing all kinds of waves. So there is no perfect this wave, that analog waves, everything it will take, but logic analyzer will take only digital data. Okay, here it will take analog also, digital also, but here only digital data is captured. And that is mainly logical analyzer is used for digital circuit itself. Most modern logical analyzer contain provisions for storing captured data, selecting a desired region of captured waveform, zooming selected region of the captured waveform, etc. If you want to store that thing, if you want to zoom that particular waveform, or you want to perform some operation on the particular region of the waveform, anything you can do by using logical analyzer. Logic analyzer, it is a, you can call it as a digital CRO, digital format. Okay, digital format analyzer, because we can apply this logical analyzer for only digital circuits. Now we have another concept called boundary scan. So it is mainly used for scan purpose. The scanning means, capturing the details in small details. So here we seen some of the before slides, we seen hardware debugging tools. If that target device is very much small, or very small device we are using, means at that time it is difficult to find out some of the boundaries and some of the very smallest devices or connections. At that time we can go for this boundary scan. What is the boundary scan? With miniature device, that means very small device, packages and multiple layer for the PCB, it will be very difficult to debug the hardware using magnifying glass, multimeter, etc. to check the interconnection among the various chips. So if that device, that means if your device is very small, so for that device it is very difficult to apply these magnifying glass, multimeter. That means whatever we seen in the previous slides, that we can't apply uh, for very small device, very small device. So at that time, anyway, why we are using device tools? These are the tools used for checking the interconnections, and if there is any if there is any not proper soldering is not there, or if there is any component is missing. For that purpose we are using these debugging tools. So but for the small device we can't apply that previous tools. Boundary scan is a technique used for testing the interconnection among the various chips which supports JTAG interface present in the board. Boundary scan is a technique used for testing the interconnection among the various chips which support JTAG interface present in the board. Sorry for the repeated lines. And here mainly we are using one JTAG interface. You can see this diagram properly. Here boundary scan cells and boundary scan path, everything we used. So boundary scan is a method. Okay, it is a method. Why we are using this method means for small device we can't apply that previous devices, debugging devices. For that purpose, in order only for the small devices, in order to check the interconnection among the various chip, or the interconnection means you can see this is connected to here like this. So this is one chip, this is one chip, this is one chip, ICs. So all ICs are interconnected each other, and there is some main soldering is there. So is that proper? If there is any component missing, for that purpose, for the small device purpose, we are using one new technique that is called boundary scan. So till now we used some of the boundary scan and magnifying glass, like that, some of the debugging tools. Now we are in the end of the module 5. So in the module 5 mainly we concentrated on some of the debugging tools and debugging methods, and how to load software into your devices, that is a embedded devices. And we seen some of the real-time operating system related things, that is what do you mean by OS, what is the task, what is the thread, and how to choose your RTOS. And there we seen functional and non-functional requirements, like that. So any clarification related to any modules, you can contact me in any of the ways. Thank you.